So this section, we're going to talk about the demand and the supply theory. So demand is the relationship between the price of a good or service or the quantity consumers are willing to buy. So that's the relationship between the price and quantity. So this table here summarizes all the demand schemes by price and quantity. So which means if the price is very low, $1, the consumers are willing to buy 800 million gallons of gasoline. Right? As the price increased, uh, consumers are willing to buy less and less quantity of gasoline. Right? So demand connects price and quantity demand. So quantity demand means the number of units that consumers will purchase at one specific price, right? So that's the relationship between price and the quantity demand. So in this plot, we can represent all the points in the previous table. Right? So here, the price is $1. The quantity demanded is 800 million gallons. So all the points here, and we connect these points, we got this demand curve. Right? So this demand has another interpretation. It can be thought as consumers' willingness to pay or marginal benefit, which means the additional benefit a consumer gets by consuming one more unit of good or service. So suppose we are at this point here. The consumers, they already have 500 million gallons, right? So the corresponding willingness to pay is $1.8, which means at this point, if they get one more gallon, they are willing to pay for $1.8 for next gallon. Right? Then this willingness to pay is getting smaller and smaller if we increase the quantity. So like here, if they already consumed 800 million gallons, the willingness to pay for the next gallon is only $1. So that willingness to pay is decreasing. That makes sense. So for example, if you are very hungry, your willingness to pay or your marginal benefit to get the next donut is very high, right? But if you already eat like 5 or 6 donuts, the benefit of next one is very, very low. So if you are already full, that can even be negative. Right? So similarly as demand, we have the supply. Supply is also a relationship between the price and the quantity. So that quantity is quantity supplied by the producers. Right? So similarly, if we have all the points and connect them together, we can get this supply curve. So this supply curve can also be thought as producer's marginal cost. For example, if the producers is already producing 500 million gallons of gasoline, the marginal cost here is $1, which means to produce the next gallon, they have to pay this cost as $1. This cost got increased over quantity. So if they already produced 700 million gallons, the marginal cost becomes $2. Right? That makes sense because if you already produced a very high quantity, which means you are already using all the available resources you have. So to produce the next gallon or next unit, that will be very difficult for you. So that's the increasing marginal cost. So the law of supply demand, as you can see, the demand curve is downward sloping. So as the price increase, the quantity demanded decrease. Ceteris paribus, which means we keep all the factors constant. We only change price and quantity. Right? That's the law of supply. Means the law of demand, which means the demand curve is downward sloping. Similarly, for supply, we have this law of supply, which means producers, they are generally will to produce more when price is high, right? Because if the price is high, that will be more profitable to produce more. Or if you use the marginal cost interpretation, if the quantity is very high, your marginal cost is very high. So that's the upward sloping of the supply. Right? So if we put demand and supply together, we can define the equilibrium as the cross between our demand curve and supply curve. So this cross will give us the equilibrium price P0 here and equilibrium quantity Q0. So P0 is a price at which the quantity supplied is the same as the quantity demand, which means the price such that our two curves cross at this point, right? And that quantity demand is just the quantity demand, equilibrium quantity is just the quantity demanded by the consumers. At the same time, it's also the quantity supplied by the producers. So why is that we call that an equilibrium? So suppose we start from somewhere below the equilibrium price. So we start from price lower than equilibrium price. What will happen? At this price, PL, because the price is very low, the producers, they're only willing to produce until this quantity, which is QS, right? But because the price is low, the consumers, they will have a high demand until QD, right? So there will be a difference between the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. So I call this excess demand or shortage. So if there's a shortage, consumers will find it's very hard to get what you want. So some consumers will be willing to pay a higher price to get good. If that's the case, the producers will find, oh, I can increase the price and I can still sell all the goods I produced. That will be profitable. So in the end, the price will increase and converge back to our equilibrium price. Similarly, what will happen if we start from a price higher than equilibrium price? If the price is high, the consumers will only demand a very low quantity because it's high price. But producers, they are willing to produce a very high quantity. So there will be a difference between the quantity supplied and quantity demand. We call this difference as excess supply or surplus. So with this surplus, producers, they will find, oh, they cannot sell all the goods they produced. So there will be pressure for them to lower the price to sell the goods they produced, right? So in the end, price will decrease and converge to our equilibrium price. This figure summarizes our idea of the demand and supply analysis framework. So we have the demand for gasoline and the supply for gasoline, where they cross will give us the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. For any price above the equilibrium price, we will have excess supply or surplus. For any price lower than the equilibrium price, we will have excess demand or shortage.